All right, it is July 30. Month is almost over. Wild. Another month down. We dove into Acts 13 and 14 today. So pretty wild circumstances is how I'll put it. Kind of near the end of 13. Like you would think it'd be a blessing, but somehow the Jews turn it bad. But we'll get there. We see Barnabas and Saul appointed at the start of 13. They're both, fully supplied in spirit and spirit and a heart full of desire to minister and be out there preaching, right? And I mean, they start in Cyprus, and they preach in Antioch, they preach in Cyprus, they preach in Salamis, they preach in Pisidia, they preach in Pamphylia, they preach in Perga, they preach again in Antioch, they preach in Iconium, Lystra, Derbe. I mean, so many places, and they end back in Antioch. That's kind of like the church home base is what I'm gathering. That's for the Christians. We're called Christians, right? So it's kind of their little base, you could consider it. But yeah, Barnabas and Saul appointed. This is their first missionary journey. And yeah, just the kind of first going to Cyprus, and then they went back to Antioch in Pisidia, which I believe, I'm actually not positive, that's a different Antioch, but anyways, that is where they sailed off from Cyprus, and that's where Paul gave this huge teaching address. And it made me think, like, this guy's not even a couple years into his missionary practices, right? And he has this crazy record of knowledge of the Old Testament, and it's just wild. Like, yeah, that's obviously the Spirit, but man, like, that's crazy what the Spirit can do through somebody, just the sheer knowledge. I mean, it's a solid, like, 30 verses of just knowledge of the Psalms, and particularly the Psalms, but yeah, just the prophets and all in the Old Testament. It's really cool. And then we get into the blessing and conflict at Antioch is what the head title is called. And this is where it gets wild. The Gentiles were offered the grace of God, right? Not just the Jews anymore. But somehow the Jews see that and put on a selfish heart and actually get like mad that, yeah, filled with there it is, verse 45, filled with envy, and began contradicting and blaspheming the things spoken by Paul. So we've gone backwards here. The Jews were given the grace of God first. They were blessed with that. Then the Gentiles. And now they're literally going back on it. Their hearts have turned so hard that they are purposely, intentfully opposing the things spoken by Paul. And it says in chapter 14 somewhere, right there, verse 2, that they seeked to poison the minds of the Gentiles. Like, in such a resentful heart, that they were desiring to poison their minds, to poison their thoughts, to poison their knowledge, and to really poison everything Paul spoke. That's just crazy. I mean, that's accepting it, and then not even falling away, straight up rejecting it, and not just rejecting it, but rejecting it upon action, to actually take action and oppose. Like, man, we've gone really far backwards, and Paul did everything he could. Paul and Barnabas and the other disciples, they tried to, again, minister to them and kind of help them understand, like, this gift is here for everybody. It's the gift that we should want for everybody. But they were so full of hardness in their hearts, they just did not accept that. They did not accept that as an answer. They wanted it all for themselves due to their selfishness, or nobody at all. And I think effectively in 14, we do see kind of in Derbe, where the Gentiles are, it says that these Jews followed Paul and Barnabas to Derbe and actually convinced the multitudes there that were being ministered to by Paul. They convinced them, like, no, these people they speak blasphemy, they're bad, let's stone them. And they did actually stone them, particularly Paul, who's mentioned, but I'm beyond assuming that Barnabas was a part of that as well. And they actually thought Paul was dead. That was their goal. Verse 19, supposing him to be dead, they left him outside the city gates, dragged him out. And then in verse 20, we see he was not dead, and the next day he departed with Barnabas again to Derbe, which is crazy. But, I mean, they went that far to convince this multitude that Paul and Barnabas are bad, to the point of stoning them with the desire of killing them. Like, how far gone have we gone, right? Like, man, you would think, like, it's over. But I believe we will see the Spirit works in powerful ways. Very, very powerful ways. You know, this is Acts. The Acts of the Spirit, right? Like, it doesn't get old feeling the providence of it. And then, yeah, in verse 26, they return to Antioch. And that concludes Paul's first journey in chapter 14. So chapter 13 to 14 is his first journey. But yeah, that's that. That is kind of some wild division there in Iconium and Derbe and those places that they were traveling to there at the end of their journey. And it's just crazy. It's crazy that they would not only turn away, but oppose what they had once so strongly believed in, and yeah, like, had such a defining impression on their lives, to turn away from that. Kind of just a sign to us to be careful of our heart posture towards these things, and to never let others kind of, I don't know, change our minds, I guess, whatever, poise what we believe, right? What we know is true. Don't let the world tell us otherwise. Because it's very easy in this world to fall away. Temptations and material things. It's so easy. So easy. But yeah, we're called to stay strong. So that's Acts 13 and 14. Peace out.